All right. Well, welcome to Guerrilla Discipleship. You are on with Tim and Kevin, and we are not able to be in the same space together. So we're basically Zooming our time together, which is ironic because we're also in the middle of preaching through a series called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And we're apparently so busy and hurried we can't even get in the same room together. So Tim, I guess we need to preach to each other as well as to other people.
I guess so.
We're going to have to figure out how to take our own sermons into consideration. But anyway, it's great to be together. And we want to talk about something with you that you may be aware of, may not be aware of. We want to introduce a couple of things to you. One is there is a new kind of organization that Tim and I are a part of, and that's called D.C. Underground. DC, if you want to check that out, www.dcunderground.org. So dcunderground.org is the website. And it is simply the vision of DC Underground is to saturate the Washington, D.C. metro area with disciples to see the kingdom built. It's not building any particular church or castle. In fact, you won't see there's about 10 or more churches and ministries involved with that, but you won't see any names there. Because it's really not about individual churches. It's about just being engaged in making disciples in the Washington, D.C. area. And but we had something called Push Week. And Tim, how would you summarize Push Week in terms of what did we mean by Push Week? Could I just ask you what was our definition of?
I think the intention, or I don't know if I want to define it, I'll say intention is, well, I guess was to take our mission and vision about gospel saturation and then go out and live it out with our actions. And so to put all of our effort and energy, as much as we have, into different kind of experiences and trainings, more experiences than trainings, that was intentional, so that we could live out what disciple making looks like. I don't know if, and the whole entire week. So it was, I think actually been 8 days with one day off in between. But that was the intention, is how do we show people what disciple making looks like?
Perfect. I agree with that completely. Now, I think the majority of you listen to us. You probably don't watch us, so you have no idea what's going on. But Tim is wearing a shirt that I can't tell what it says, and it's kind of driving me crazy. Oh, it says only God. All I could see was these big letters, and I couldn't tell even what they were saying. So anyway, only God.
Not farmers only, don't worry.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, sorry to distract you. But yeah, Push Week was basically, hey, a practice week. It was, let's practice what we keep talking about. And so we had a bunch of things scheduled. And we're just going to talk a little bit about what happened, what didn't happen, the great things, and just invite you, because our hope is that this won't be the last Push Week. This will be the first Push Week, and that we'll be inviting you and others to join us in some of this going forward. We were talking about this before because we'd never really done a Push Week before. We were trying to figure out what would be good, what could we expect, what would be success. You know, you kind of want to know what your goal is. And I think somewhere along the line, we had decided that if we could get 100 people engaged in Push Week, and I know on a prayer call this morning, Thursday morning, Pray for Maryland call, Tim Ann told me that we had just right at 100 people engaged. Is that what you have as well?
Yeah, Ann sent a Slack out. She said almost 100 people engaged. We have people that we don't know their names, and so it was hard to count. We had almost 100, I think over 90 spiritual conversations that we counted, probably more that we didn't count. And she said, which I thought was interesting, 16 different people from at least 16 different churches.
Wow. So that's the idea. It's just, hey, we decided to make room in our schedule to be laborers in the harvest. You know, Jesus basically said, pray for laborers. And we decided to get out of our busy schedules and be laborers. And we did a variety of things. It was a wonderful week. Maybe we can just kind of run through that. I don't know, Tim, that we need to go through all the details, but would you share a little bit of some of the things that we did do so that folks can know what we were engaged in?
I'll do the big ones and the quick ones. So Monday was the praying at schools. We wanted to try to pray at as many Montgomery public schools as we could, because the Push Week was for Montgomery County in particular. Hopefully we'll have Push Weeks for other counties coming up. And so that was go and just lay a good foundation to prayer. If you want to engage with people, great, but that wasn't necessarily the goal. I believe was it Tuesday? We had a training with a guy named Claude who runs an amazing ministry called Love Inc., Love in the Name of Christ. And that was, how do you have spiritual conversations with people who need help, need hope, whether it's because they're homeless or they're helpless or somewhere in between, addictions, whatever struggles they have. How do you be spiritually obvious and build relational equity with people and get them connected to an organization that will give them a hand up, not a handout? That Wednesday was all about training. It was probably our heaviest training of the entire week. We began with how to be essentially spiritually obvious with people who are Muslim and how to have spiritual conversations with them. It was tons of information to take in. Then later on Wednesday, Kevin talked about multiplication and how does multiplication look like, and train some pastors in that, and some Christians. And then Thursday we did a prayer caravan coupled with some prayer walking. So a prayer caravan was just going around the county, looking at different places where God is working and moving, and places where we want God to work and move, being familiar with different cultures and religions and things like that we can engage. And that ended with a really cool spiritual conversation as well. And I think Thursday night, I know people went all over the county to, I think they went to Montgomery County College. They went to Rio and Gaithersburg, which is a huge shopping center. Some people went to downtown Silver Spring and got to witness some interesting things that happen in Silver Spring in the evening times. And the idea was to have spiritual conversations with prayer walking as well. And that went great. Friday was a Sabbath because we do believe in rest, even if we are hurried. We still should rest. Saturday, there was prayer in the parks, and we encourage people to prayer walk in a park. But the really powerful one was Saturday evening. We had like a multicultural music fest in Aspen Hill, where there's a lot of foot traffic, and it started off really slow, but by the end of the night, we were praying with people and worshiping, and it was just super powerful. And of course, it was, last but not least, we ended with prayer at the World Prayer Center, and we began with prayer at the World Prayer Center, and those were kind of our bookends of the week.
Yeah,
that's a quick and dirty rundown.
That really is a wonderful overview. And so you can see there was a lot of activity. And for those of you who are part of Oakdale Church, we probably didn't do as good a job of inviting you as we could have. We've been, as you know, so steeped in this all-in campaign that it's hard to push so many of these things. But we did have some folks from Oakdale participate, and we're glad to have that. I hope we can do these push weeks again. Let's just share a few stories. One of the reasons I want to go back to what Tim said, one of the reasons that we did this prayer caravan, and we've said this before, and if you live in Montgomery County, Maryland, you know that it is one of the most diverse. In fact, we have 4 of the top 10 most diverse cities in the country are right here in Montgomery County. And so the prayer caravan was designed basically to go around and say, look at the unbelievable number of different religions, different ethnic groups. It is just, we live in such a diverse county. And one of our goals at Oakdale is to reach into and see disciple-making movement happen in 70 different ethnic groups, people groups, or countries around the world. And we don't have to travel to go to those 70 countries. The 70 countries are already here. We probably, I don't even know, we probably have 10 or 15 or more represented at Oakdale Church on a Sunday morning.
Over 25 nationalities in our congregation.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. So the reality is,
without even trying to count,
yeah, we need to just look at the fact that God has brought the nations here, and if we can create disciples who are connected back home, man, that's the way to do this and to go at it. I'll just tell you a little bit about one of the experiences that I had. I was at Montgomery College with a couple of us, and so I just want to share that story with you. So we go to Montgomery College, and Tim features prominently in my Montgomery College community college trip because Michelle and I were in one car, and Andrew Hall, our student ministries pastor, was in another car, and Tim called and said his wife, Sasha, was broken down and needed help. So we said to Andrew, you go on ahead of us to college, and we'll meet you there. We're going to go help Sasha, which we were able to jump her car and get her back home. Unfortunately, her car broke down on her 30th birthday. What a crazy thing. Tim was at home with, I think
no
you
car
had
seat.
Judah.
I wanted to
and
go,
no
but
I
had no car seat to put the kids in to go help.
You know, He's just a lazy husband, didn't want to care for his wife at all.
I offered to put the kid on my lap like they did in the 60s, but she was not a fan of that.
He was not happy. No, Tim couldn't get there because he had Judah and no car seat. But here's the thing. By the time we got to the campus, Andrew had already been praying. And so we called from the parking lot. We said, Andrew, we're here in this particular parking lot. Where are you? And he saw us drive in, I guess. And he said, I know right where you're at. We are coming for or toward you. And so Michelle said, Andrew was alone in the car. Well, Andrew, as he was prayer walking on Montgomery College campus, asked if he could pray for a young guy sitting outside the science building. And he said, yes. The guy's name was Philemon. And Philemon's an Ethiopian Christian. And so as Andrew prayed for him and he walked away, Philemon got up and said, I just feel like God is challenging me. I need to join you. And so the four of us, actually Philemon joined us, and the four of us walked around the outside of the college campus, just in the various places, and just asking students, could we pray for them? I don't know exactly how many students we encountered. I would say probably 50 students. We weren't there as long because of some other time constraints. Remember, we're too hurried. We don't have enough time. But we maybe spent an hour or so there, and 50 students. Here's the thing. Of those 50 students that we asked, could we pray for you? I think I got, and our team got 3 or 4 no's. That was it. The rest of the students were happy to have us pray with them and to have spiritual conversations with us. It was just amazing what God did. And so that just shows you what Barna has said about this age group, that they're the most open generation. And those of us who are a little bit older have been told, religion's private, don't talk about religion with anyone else. But we're really not talking about religion. We're just sharing our relationship with Jesus in an organic way with others. So that was a wonderful experience for me. Tim, what about you? What would you say was the highlight of your week?
Oh, man. It was good.
You can have multiple highlights if you want.
Yeah. I mean, it was good to stretch me in some ways. I'll share more of a personal one. So Thursday night, there was someone was rocking the Silver Spring, and there was an altercation. I'll keep it light. I don't want to scare people away. I wasn't there, but I kind of put my guard up after I heard the story. And so Saturday when we were at the music fest, I'm engaging with people and things like that, but I'm kind of like also standing back and watching. And there was this man who was looking like he was trying to get in a car or getting out of a car, and he was definitely almost being carried at one point by someone. And he came stumbling up to our worship. And at that moment in time, I was like, okay, my first instinct, especially after the story I heard Thursday, was, all right, Tim, be a little bit on guard. And I stepped back and I kind of watched. And I'm not sure if that was the right response, because I had seen him coming from a long way, and he kind of beelined it towards 2 women. And then I felt really bad. But as soon as he got towards them, he just kind of collapsed in tears and was crying. And he was also inebriated, and these 2 wonderful ladies, I ended up praying with them and giving them water and giving them food. And I kind of had a little bit of guilt, like, wow, Tim, like you could have been there for him, and why'd you let him go to the women first? And eventually he came over to me and we talked as much as we could with my limited Spanish, and we prayed together, and I had a good conversation with him. But it was just good to realize, like, Tim, this is, the real world. We can live in our little only bubble. And even as a pastor, my first gut reaction was to stand back instead of to step up. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, Tim, you can do this. It's not that bad. It's easier to do it for me when it's someone I'm in a relationship with, or I'm at the gym or at a safe place. It's a little harder when you're like, well, I heard there was an altercation a couple nights ago. And you can claim that you're preaching security or safety. And yes, that should be a concern, but it shouldn't be the thing that rules how we engage. And it ended up being a great night, and it was awesome. But I kind of really wrestled with that for about 5-10 minutes while it was all going on.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to just make sure, I think the altercation was not with any of our people that went out.
They had witnessed something across the street.
Yeah.
And so Anne, who had, I guess, witnessed it, says, I need to start praying with my eyes open, I guess. And so when she was praying with this other man, then on Saturday, I was like, well, if she's not going to keep her eyes open, I am. Yeah. So part of me was wanting to watch out for her, but it was probably not as necessary as I was making it out to be.
And I think that I came to the music fest a little bit later than Tim did. Is that the guy that you're talking about? Is that the guy that was pretty intoxicated?
Oh yeah, he was definitely inebriated. He had peed his pants. His name was Freddie. He spoke broken Spanish, and I spoke broken Spanish. Well, he spoke broken English, and I spoke broken Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he stayed around for a long time there. And here's the interesting thing: we had that music fest at another church, and as I said, I got a little bit later than Tim, and when I got there, the pastor of that church had been just out observing this, and he was inside the building. So I went in and talked to him, and he made this comment. He said, I've been so impressed by the way that the team out there is ministering to people, how gentle they are. And so it's funny, our willingness to serve God in this way, not only does it reach into those who are far from God, but it also inspires, encourages, and equips and sort of models things for those who are believers, even pastors who, we need to be reminded ourselves of what is it that God's called us to do. And so overall, Tim, what were the stats for our week, for Push Week?
I think we shared them earlier on in the video.
How many spiritual conversations? We didn't say that, did we?
Yeah, we said about 90 plus spiritual conversations. About
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. About 100 people around that number engaged in about 16 different churches from about 16 different churches.
Okay, I missed the 90. Okay. I myself missed the 90. So here's the thing. We don't know, and we didn't have any takers on starting a discovery group, I don't think. So
correct. But we did have someone who said they wanted to read the Bible in their own language, who couldn't read, and so we helped them download an app in Spanish so that they could listen to the Bible. So, well, that's not quite an invitation. At least they're getting access to God's word, maybe for the first time in their own language.
Yeah. And so here's what you can see. This was not a, we're going to go out and share the 4 spiritual laws with people and see if we can get them to pray the sinner's prayer. We really just our goal was to engage with people around spiritual matters, invite conversation, see if it might go to the place where they would be interested in discovering more of what God's word has to say. And so we don't know the ultimate fruit of this, but we also know that we ourselves were intimidated by doing this. I mean, it was something new for us, and it's prayer walking or talking with folks, just intentionally walking up to folks and say, hey, I'm just here in this area praying for people. How could I pray for you? Is something that we all need to get more comfortable doing. And so Push Week was almost as much for us, to me, as it was for anything else. God is training us. You go to boot camp when you join the military, and that's to help you figure out what it looks like to be a soldier, to be a Marine, to be in the military, and it equips you. And so this was an equipping for us. And I hope the next time we go, we don't know exactly. Maybe once a year we'll do this. We might do this again in 2024. Just another little quick story, and then we'll wrap up. We just wanted to share with you what happened over Push Week, and just share with you that it happened. After that training, the redemptive compassion training, which is, could I just say a word about that? That, when we see folks on the street corner, and what our culture does and government does is really transactional, right? They just give money to people, but that doesn't necessarily even begin to deal with the multiple problems or multiple issues that they might be facing. And so this compassionate, redemptive compassion work is really about seeing them as people made in the image of God, and doing more than just giving them one simple transaction, but helping them to maybe find a way out of the difficulties they're in, whether it's addiction or financial struggles or homelessness. It really is more of a relational grounding. We went out to lunch after that training, a few of us in Damascus, and we were praying over our lunch. We had a great chance to pray for our waiter, found out that we had a little bit of a connection with him, asked if we could pray for him. He stood there and allowed us to pray with him. But at the end of our lunch, or not at the end, but towards the end of our lunch, a couple came up who had also been having lunch a couple of tables from us. And one of the things we did as we were praying for our food is we were saying, God, help us to continue to make disciples who make disciples. And the couple came up and said, as they were leaving the restaurant, they said, "We just want you to know we prayed with you as we were listening to you. We joined in your prayer, and we really do need more disciples who are making disciples." So it was just, again, the way that God uses things, and we can't always see how this is going to work out. But we are so glad that, again, if you want to know more about DC Underground, just go to dcunderground.org, O-R-G. If you want to know more about what Oakdale Church is doing to make disciples, you can reach out to me at kbaker@oakdale.church, or
me, Tim, at tparker@oakdale.church.
You can make some comments below so that we know how to respond to you. And we're just grateful that you're a part of Guerrilla Discipleship. Hey, why don't you create your own little push week? That would be my challenge for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe you could just create a push hour that you would say, you know what, it's been a long time or never that I have walked in my neighborhood and just ask people in my neighborhood, hey, I'm just out praying for our neighborhood today. How could I pray for you? Or maybe you could send text messages to all of your family, friends, group, whoever, and just say, hey, you know, I just was thinking about you. How could I pray for you? Have a little push hour, little push day, a little push week in your own life, and see what God does. It is, of course, a little bit frightening. As Tim said, it's out of our comfort zone at the beginning, but God will multiply through your willingness to serve him great things for his kingdom. So, as always, thank you for joining us here on Guerrilla Discipleship. Tim and I love doing this for the chance to talk with you. We love to connect with you. If you have anything else that we can do, please bless us. Share it with us so we can be blessed. Tim, anything? Last words?
Oh, that's good. I would just encourage you to, get connected to the DC Underground, be familiar with it. I think you can go to the bottom and say, hey, I'm interested. And then when we do more things, we'd love to have you be part of it. And you can also share it with other believers and cast vision to them.
All right. Thanks for being a part of Guerrilla Disciple Making today. We love doing this. We'll see you next week. God bless.
Bye.